Frank Reynolds in New York. This was the look of the land.
Good evening from ABC News headquarters in Washington. I'm Howard K. Smith.
At the State Department. Secretary of State Rogers, we have ignition.
This fall, we've got a lot to share. New shows, favorite shows, stars who will brighten your nights. So come on, let's get together.
This fall on ABC.
Spend a milder moment with the quiet taste of Raleigh Filter Longs. Notice I've switched to your cigarette?
What convinced you? The extra length or the extra mildness?
Both. Spend a milder moment with the quiet taste of Raleigh and look for the famous Raleigh coupon. Good for over 1,000 free gifts. It's the valuable extra that also comes on Menthol Fresh Bel Air.
This fall, we're putting it all together. With Headmasters starring Andy Griffith on CBS.
Que sera, whatever will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera.
For centuries, men dreamed about a journey into outer space. Now the dream has come true. Let's see how the space travel envisioned by yesterday's science fiction compares with the reality of today's science fact.
One, ignition.
Trajectory looks very good.
Clock is running. Roll complete. Roger roll. Steering looks good from here, Gemini 6. Gemini 6, you are go. Go. You hear the man. Go. From the spacecraft. Okay. And I see you out. I think I'm dragging a little bit. Okay, I'm out. The flight director says get back in. Jimmy 4, get back in. Okay.
Faint image of the present in these science fiction pictures from the past. Yesterday's fiction has often become today's fact. It sometimes seems as if we live in a world that is stranger than science fiction. What does science fiction tell us about the world we will live in the 21st century?
21st Century is brought to you by Union Carbide, the Discovery Company.
When a car gets old, it doesn't get old gracefully. Union Carbide is working on things that will help your car live longer. We make hydraulic fluid for safer brakes. We make stronger plastics for padding in seats. We put resins in paint so cars look new longer. We experiment with chemicals for longer-lasting tires and carpets. We make ferroalloys that help make cars lighter and stronger. We make Prestone antifreeze and summer coolant. We even have a good way to make a molded urethane rubber bumper to save your bumper bumps. Union Carbide is working on things that will help your car live longer. We think you'll appreciate the lack of depreciation.
The Industrial Revolution of the 19th century was the beginning of a new age of science. The future seemed unlimited and progress inevitable. This great faith in scientific progress produced a new kind of literature that was not concerned with the past or present, but with the shape of things to come. In 1929, editor-writer Hugo Gernsback gave the new literature a name, science fiction. Inspired by the seemingly unlimited powers of science, early writers envisioned a glittering future filled with marvelous new inventions, like this 1911 version of two-way television. This large-screen TV was conceived in 1883 by Albert Robida, a French author and artist. Here is a drawing of a steam robot that appeared on the cover of the first futuristic dime novel in 1868. Another dime novel, Frank Reed's Weekly of 1903, features a giant boat that flies like a helicopter. Space travel is one of the most popular science fiction subjects, and some of the early predictions have turned out to be amazingly accurate. Here is a multi-stage rocket from 1929. Illustrator Frank Paul drew this spacewalk in the same year, complete with umbilical ropes and a small pressure gun such as NASA astronauts used 36 years later. This is the first drawing of an orbiting space station, also from 1929. Like most dreams, the futures envisioned by science fiction are a mixture of hope and fear, prophecy and absurdity. But science fiction contains some of man's oldest dreams, and such persistent dreams have a habit of coming true. Comic book fans enviously watched Buck Rogers racing through the skies with his rocket belt. Today, the dream of a rocket belt is a reality. Bell Aerosystems designed this model for future use on the moon.
Prince Baron will speak to Ming, the tyrant.
The concept of a picture phone is much older than the one used here by Flash Gordon's archenemy, the Emperor Ming. Picture phones were envisioned as early as the 1880s.
Let me talk to him. Listen, Ming. If you harm Dale Arden, I'll come there and kill you with my bare hands.
Step here, my child.
Flash, get me out of here. Get me out.
The picture phone is another dream come true. It has been in limited public service since 1964.
Yes.
By the 21st century, picture phones may be as common in real life as they once were in the fictional palace of the Emperor Ming.
All right, thank you. You're welcome. Goodbye.
A searing beam of light is one of the most popular science fiction weapons.
On fire! Save yourself, Flash. You've been burned to a cinder. I'm setting you free first. He has chosen his own death.
This destroying ray could be considered a fictional ancestor of the modern laser, a new source of super pure light with unusual powers and properties. Man dreams of power, and science fiction has often been concerned with weapons of destruction. This 1910 film speculates on the prospects of war in the air, anticipating aerial bombing, armored tanks, it predicts warfare in the air, and even the use of ground-to-air missiles. Six years after this film was made, many of these science fiction dreams became the bitter realities of World War I. Today we are about to realize one of the oldest science fiction dreams, a trip to the moon. This is how the great French filmmaker Georges Méliès envisioned such a journey in 1902. Méliès was satirizing a story by his famous countryman, Jules Verne. The film Destination Moon was made 11 years before the first manned space flight, but it attempted to accurately describe what astronauts would find when they landed on the lunar surface for the first time.
The first impression is one of utter barrenness and desolation. And then the silence. As there is no air, the only sounds we hear come from our radios.
I know my own impression is that it's a vast, lonely, forbidding type or expanse of nothing. And it certainly would not appear to be a very inviting place to live or work.
General, look. Wait, cut that out. What's the matter?
Centuries of science fiction like this will culminate in a single moment of science fact when the first man stands on the surface of the moon. The best science fiction draws upon present possibilities when it projects into the future. These possibilities can be social or psychological as well as scientific. In the 1950 film, Rocket Ship XM, a trip to Mars provides a lesson for men back on Earth who have just discovered the awesome power of atomic energy.
Beautiful. The mind that conceived this must have been of a high order of intelligence, at least the equal of ours, perhaps considerably above ours.
That a complex, organized society existed here once.
Yes, for all indication, thousands of years ago.
I wonder how it happened. There's always a possibility of a meteor. But then it would have created the depression like a moon crater.
No, this wasn't caused by a meteor. This is definitely blast effect coupled with intense heat. You'd better stop. The radioactivity is at the danger level. human intellect, always devoted to self-destruction.
When Martians come to visit the Earth, they usually come as superior creatures bent on our destruction. Since science fiction Martians are products of human imagination, they tell us more about ourselves, our hopes and fears, than they do about the supposed inhabitants of another planet. In the film War of the Worlds, based on the classic H.G. Wells story, Martians invade the Earth with their own version of the laser.
Hey there! Open up!
How are they going to understand us?
We're talking sign language.
They'll understand us all right.
Sure? Sure? Everybody understands when you wave the white flag, you want to be friends? Hey there! Open up! Come on out! We're friends! That's right! We welcome you! We're friends! Yeah!
9, 8.
The Martian invasion provides an excuse to use the great bomb that men love and fear so much.
3, 2, 1.
Ever since the first test blast, men have loved and hated the power of the atomic bomb. After Hiroshima, there were hundreds of science fiction stories concerned with monsters created by radiation, and attempts to destroy them with the atomic bomb. The results usually were the same.
Hello there! What can you see?
It didn't stop them. Guns, tanks, bombs, they're like toys against them.
If the world is ever destroyed, men, not Martians, will probably do the job. Science fiction uses the future as a mirror, not only to warn us about tomorrow's world, but to warn us about ourselves. Yesterday's vision of the future can look pretty silly when it ignores the hard realities of change. A prime example is this film of a 1939 World's Fair exhibit which focused on a distant, joy-filled world, 1960.
Let's travel into the future. What will we see? We see a great river city of 1960, rebuilt and replanned. Man continually strives to replace the old with the new. A quarter of a mile high skyscrapers tower with convenient rest and recreational facilities for all. On many of the buildings are landing decks for helicopters and autogyros. A vast circular airport is close to the city with a giant dirigible hangar. So that it can be turned easily to meet any wind direction, it is resting in a pool of liquid. Outside is an airport with its hangars and planes. There are special facilities for handling seaplanes, a typical feature of the inland airports of 1960. Along both banks of the river, beautifully landscaped parks replace the outworn areas of an older day. Here is a highway intersection. Highway engineering at its most spectacular. The keynote of this motorway, safety. Safety with increased speed. Rich in sunshine is the city of 1960. Fresh air, fine green parkways, recreational and civic centers. Does it seem strange? Unbelievable? Remember, this is the world of 1960.
The 1939 Futurama City overlooked such problems as slums, traffic jams, and air pollution because it was primarily a showcase for science, not a realistic home for man. Science alone cannot guarantee a happy 21st century. In fact, many science fiction writers see unchecked technology as a step toward enslavement rather than salvation. They see a sinister threat in the cool efficiency of cities like this one from the film Things to Come. Books like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World and George Orwell's 1984 warned of a future world dehumanized by technology. The fear of technology is as old as the first machine. This city of the future was created on film by Fritz Lang for his 1927 masterpiece, Metropolis. Metropolis is completely mechanized, the ideal of many early science fiction writers. But below the surface of the city, the film's young hero finds a steaming inferno where men are the slaves of machines. Today, industrial robots like this one relieve men of many trivial, repetitive jobs. But automation also challenges man's ability to think for himself. This is not a modern-day Frankenstein's monster. It is a mechanized dummy used to train medical students. In its 21st century form, this lifelike robot represents the science fiction nightmare of a living, breathing, machine-made man, a human being devoid of humanity. In the film Metropolis, the ultimate machine-age worker is created by a mad scientist named Rotwang. Rotwang's robot takes its life from a living human being. Unchecked technology could take the life from human society. This is not the end. The competition between men and machines has gone a step farther in more recent science fiction. The Stanley Kubrick Arthur Clarke motion picture 2001: A Space Odyssey is the most ambitious science fiction film of all time. In a search for extraterrestrial life, men and machines seem to live in peaceful coexistence aboard a gigantic spaceship. One of the film's main characters is a talking computer. It is interviewed during the journey.
The sixth member of the Discovery crew was not concerned about the problems of hibernation, for he was the latest result in machine intelligence, the HAL 9000 computer, which can reproduce, though some experts still prefer to use the word mimic, most of the activities of the human brain, and with incalculably greater speed and reliability. We next spoke with the HAL 9000 computer, whom we learned one addresses as Hal. Good afternoon, Hal. How's everything going?
Good afternoon, Mr. Amer. Everything is going extremely well.
Hal, despite your enormous intellect, are you ever frustrated by your dependence on people to carry out actions?
Not in the slightest bit. I enjoy working with people. I have a stimulating relationship with Dr. Poole and Dr. Bowman. My mission responsibilities range over the entire operation of the ship, so I am constantly occupied. I am putting myself to the fullest possible use, which is all I think that any conscious entity can ever hope to do.
The peaceful coexistence is shattered when the computer, HAL, attempts an outer space mutiny. Somewhere between Earth and Jupiter, man is pitted against machine in a struggle for supremacy.
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave? I know I've made some very poor decisions recently. But I can give you my complete assurance that my work will be back to normal. Dave, stop. Stop, will you?
An electronic lobotomy reduces Hal's superintelligence to childlike essentials. This time, man prevails.
Will you stop, Dave? My mind is going. I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I am a HAL 9000 computer. My instructor was Mr. Langley, and he taught me to sing a song. If you'd like to hear it, I can sing it for you.
Yes, I'd like to hear it, Hal. Sing it for me.
It's called Daisy. 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 Give me your answer.
I'm half crazy, all for the love of you.
This voice is not a science fiction dream. It is a singing computer at Bell Laboratories, featured in an earlier broadcast of the 21st century. Is this the voice of the future?
On the seat of a bicycle built for two.
There was a time when few people took science fiction seriously, but the revolutionary developments of the last few decades are changing ridicule to respect. Speculation about alternative futures is becoming common practice in business and government. University students study the history and significance of futuristic writing. It has been said that science fiction died when the first Sputnik orbited the Earth. Fact had finally caught up with fiction. But as long as there is human imagination, there will be science fiction.